Jezebel was a Phoenician princess, the daughter of Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians. She was married to King Ahab of Israel as part of a political alliance between Israel and Phoenicia. However, Jezebel did not worship the God of Israel. Instead, she was a fervent worshiper of Baal, a false god associated with fertility and storms, and she brought her Baal worship practices to Israel. After her marriage to Ahab, Jezebel used her position as queen to promote the worship of Baal throughout Israel. She actively opposed the prophets of God and persecuted them. Under her influence, Ahab built an altar and a temple for Baal in Samaria, Israel's capital. Jezebel also had many of the prophets of the Lord killed, and she supported hundreds of priests of Baal and Asherah, the consort of Baal. Her actions led to a deep spiritual decline in Israel, with many people turning away from the worship of God and embracing Baal worship. One of the most famous stories involving Jezebel is her confrontation with the prophet Elijah. During a severe drought in Israel, Elijah challenged the prophets of Baal to a contest on Mount Carmel to prove who was the true God, Baal or the God of Israel. The contest involved calling on their respective gods to send fire down to consume a sacrifice. When Jezebel heard of the defeat and death of her prophets, she was furious. She sent a message to Elijah, vowing to kill him within 24 hours. Elijah, despite his victory, fled for his life, terrified of Jezebel's wrath. He went into hiding, where God comforted and strengthened him. Another infamous episode involving Jezebel is her role in the unjust death of Naboth, an innocent man who owned a vineyard that King Ahab desired. The vineyard was located near Ahab's palace in Jezreel, and Ahab wanted to buy it. However, Naboth refused to sell it because it was part of his family's inheritance, which was sacred according to the law of Israel. Ahab returned to his palace, sulking and angry. When Jezebel found out what had happened, she took matters into her own hands. She devised a plan to falsely accuse Naboth of blasphemy and treason. Jezebel wrote letters in Ahab's name, instructing the elders of the city to arrange for false witnesses to accuse Naboth during a public trial. As a result, Naboth was stoned to death, and Ahab seized his vineyard. This unjust act greatly angered God, and he sent Elijah to confront Ahab and Jezebel. Elijah prophesied that Ahab's dynasty would be destroyed and that Jezebel would meet a violent end, with dogs devouring her body. Years later, after Ahab had died in battle, Jezebel continued to wield power as queen mother during the reign of her son, Joram. However, a new leader named Jehu rose up, determined to fulfill God's prophecy against Ahab's house. Jehu marched to Jezreel, where Jezebel was living. When Jezebel heard of Jehu's approach, she dressed herself in fine clothes and makeup, possibly to try to maintain her dignity or charm Jehu. She watched from her window as Jehu entered the city. Jehu called out to the eunuchs who were serving Jezebel and commanded them to throw her down from the window. The eunuchs obeyed, and Jezebel was thrown from the window to her death. Her body was trampled underfoot by Jehu's horses, and when they later went to bury her, they found that dogs had eaten her flesh, leaving only her skull, feet, and hands, just as Elijah had prophesied. Jezebel is remembered as one of the most wicked women in the Bible. Her influence led to widespread idolatry, the persecution of God's prophets, and the moral decay of Israel. Her actions against Naboth showed her ruthless and unjust character. Jezebel's life and death serve as a warning against turning away from God and embracing evil. Jezebel's story is a powerful reminder of the consequences of unchecked power, idolatry, and opposition to God's will.